Welcome to Bellman Woodworking Designs with me, Brent Bellman. Today we're going to show you how to make one of these, a kid's farmhouse table and chairs. So let's check it out and see how you can make one yourself. Alright, so for the tabletop on this project, I used 2x6s that I cut down to the right length, and when I did this I wanted to make sure I could have 6 seats at the table for 6 kids. So that's the length I cut it for that. To pair everything up well, I did cut off the sides of each board, that way they could fit together nice and flush and not have any edges where those boards are rounded over when they come from Lowe's or Home Depot. So that's what I'm doing here, is I cut off all the edges, and I did end up running them over the jointer just to make sure that everything was flush and connected well. So to hold these pieces together, I did use this doweling jig, and I'll include a link to a video I did for that. And I used dowels to hold these together, so that way the table would have a lot of strength for whatever might end up being on top of it. Now, we're talking 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old kids, but I just wanted to be safe and secure for when my daughter used it. So this doweling jig worked great to line up all the dowels, which I did just cut from scratch right there. So here I'm inserting those dowels, and there's not really need to buy dowels. You can just go buy one big giant dowel rod and cut it down to size, and just make sure you set your depth of the drill and get those at the right depth when you do that. So these are each glued in, and then I put glue on all the inside faces of the board, of each board there, and then set everything up in clamps. So these are, if you've never used them, the Harbor Freight clamps. They do work really well. They're a lot cheaper than something you might buy from Woodcraft or Rockler, and not that I've used the more expensive clamps, but they work really well, and they worked great for this project. So using that jig, made sure that everything lined up on there. So I set everything in the clamps and got everything set and pulled everything together. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's anything that'll ever pull this tabletop apart or would keep it from staying together. So right here I used an electric plane just to get everything even, because even though there's dowels there, and the jig did a great job, it was just a little bit off. So between the plane and the orbital sander here, this really made sure that everything was nice and smooth and flush. And since these were 2x6 boards, there was plenty of wood to work with, and I wasn't worried about how much I'd be taking away or there'd be anything left. So once I got everything flushed there across the top, I did go back over this with a router, and I routed pretty much everything on this project because there's going to be my daughter, who's 2, other little kids handling this. So I want to make sure everything is as smooth as possible. So here I'm starting to cut down all the lumber for the legs and the skirt of the table, just to make sure that everything is going to fit. And again, these are still just cut down from the other scrap 2x6s that are there. Now I want to give these legs a little bit of an angle on them. So this is a angle jig that I made, and it's kind of more of an old school jig, but it's something that allows me to set the angle and run this board across the table saw. So not necessarily the best jig, but it was a fast build, and that's what I needed. I just didn't want to get slowed down in this project, so I was trying to make the deadline of her birthday party. So right here again, that allows me to cut these angles on the legs, just that way they weren't straight legs. I wanted just to give a little bit more of a feature to them there, so it would just be a little more interesting to look at there. So I made sure that as far as the width of them, I had a certain width that I wanted the skirt to be, or length, and so this was just kind of trimming it up to make sure it had the right look that I wanted there. Now once I had all those pieces set for the skirt and all the other parts of the table, the actual legs themselves, again, I ran everything over the router table, and this is actually a little router table design from Jay Bates. I took his design and it works really good. So again, just routed over all the pieces to make sure that there wouldn't be any rough edges for little hands that would be on here. Now for the legs and the skirt, I did use a Craig jig here, and again, this is a little Craig jig station I had made from Nick Ferry a long time ago. It works really well, but everything with the legs and the skirt is all used with the Craig jig and with the pocket holes. So a good system. I know not everybody loves that system, but I think it's great. It works really well. So everything is glued up and screwed together using those pocket holes and screws. So it was a really good way to do that and make sure that there was a nice, steady and sturdy base for the table. Now right here in this view, you can see those legs have that taper that I added earlier there with that tapering jig. So again, just kind of made the legs a little more, in my opinion, pleasing to look at. They weren't just some straight rectangular legs. I thought it just added a little bit more of a feature to the table there. Now again, if you've never used pocket hole screws or a Craig jig, anything like that, you definitely want to make sure you clamp these things up. Otherwise, they will move around, and those screws really want to make those boards twist when you do that. So make sure to clamp it down. So here for the top of the table, this is General Finishes, their Colonial Maple. And if you've never used their products, I highly suggest them. They cost a little more. This one in particular is a gel stain, so you see it going on thick there, then you wipe it all off. But their stuff, I've never had a bad experience from anything with General Finishes. I buy it from my local woodcraft store, and it just overall is fantastic. Now, a gel stain is really supposed to be used for vertical projects, but what I love about a gel stain, as you can see here, is there's no pre-treatment to the wood. You're just able to put it on, wipe it off, and it always gives a really even finish. So I try whenever possible to use gel stain, unless you're doing something with a lot of small crevices, and that's a bad idea. When I had all that done, I went over, and this is just Minwax polyurethane, or fast drying polyurethane. It was kind of on a deadline and wanted to make sure that I had everything done in time. Now, for this, I did go back and use pocket holes to attach the skirt and the bottom of the table to the top. And some people may say not to do that, but that's what I did, and it is working just fine. Now here I'm finalizing making all the cuts for the chairs. I did do 6 chairs total, so I needed enough pieces for 6 chairs. So a lot of repetitive cuts. But if you want to have lots of chairs, that's what's nice, is you can just set some to cut and make all your cuts, get everything, all your pieces cut, and then put them all together at the same time. So it's kind of nice to be able to go and do it that way. So these are kind of the, I guess, skirts, for lack of a better word, on the bottom of the chairs. So the chairs are really made of, I guess, 3 pieces: the back, the seat, and the bottom. So the bottom is just 4 legs and 4 little skirt pieces that connect them together. Now on these, I did use wood glue and also super glue. The super glue is just kind of to help hold it in place while the wood glue dries. And so I put all the pieces together, as you can see here. I did use a little spacer, that way, again, just to give the legs a little bit of a better look, so they weren't just pieces, just flushed around all the edges. I wanted to have the I guess the skirt for the chair there, have a little bit of an inset to it. So again, right there I'm putting super glue and letting that be what held the piece in place while the wood glue dried. So this is a 2x10 is what I use for the backs and the seats of the chair, and just cut them down to size, and just ended up gluing those together and then screwing those together as well, just to make an L shape, and it worked really nice. It makes a good chair. May not be the most ergonomic chair, but it definitely works great for my daughter. And I, at her birthday party, had kids that were from 1.5 to 5, and were able to sit in these little chairs. The 5-year-old not as well, but worked great for them. So right here I'm just attaching the bottom to the actual chair, the seat, and the back. And I did pre-drill those holes there, so that way the screws could go in and fit on there, everything being flush, and it worked really well. So here's the final chair there, and it's a great sturdy little chair for sure.
Alright, so here we have our final product here. We've got the table and chairs all built and put together. I do have 6 chairs that all go around this table. One was from a project that I had made previously, and I'll include a link to that below and also a note up on the cards. If you do want to see, again, that description of how I actually built these chairs, I just kept them really simple. I'll put that, again, like I said, I'll put a link below that, but also the card up top so you can see how to make those. With this table, what's really cool about it is you can stain it to be any color you want, you can paint it to be any color you want, you can make it higher, lower, whatever fits the needs for your kids at your house. So for us, for me, the reason I built this was we had looked before at lots of tables through companies like Pottery Barn, which I'm not affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. They do make neat stuff, but the price is always really high. So this total project, everything for the chairs, the table, was between 50 and 100 bucks, and that's a lot cheaper than something you would find at Pottery Barn. Their stuff usually runs between $300 and $400 for a set, you know, something like this. And I think too, I'm hoping this will be something that my daughter will hold on to in the future. It might be neat that she'll carry with her and use, and we'll see kids down the line use it. So definitely a neat project that you can build for your house, for your family, for your kids, and something they can use for a long time. So if you like this video, I definitely appreciate you clicking that like button down below, and if you want to get notifications about more videos I do in the future, click that subscribe button down below. That'd be really awesome. I'd appreciate that. Also, if you don't mind, if you like this video, make sure to share it out. Share it anywhere, share it with anyone, anybody you think that might want to see it. Definitely share it with them, and that would be awesome. I would really appreciate that. If you like this video and other videos that I'm doing, you can check me out on Patreon. That's a place where you can support me, support the videos and projects and all that stuff that I do, and I would definitely greatly appreciate that. And I'll also include a link to that down below and put a note in the cards up top. So I hope this inspires you for your next project, your next build, something you can make for your kids in your house. So until next time, be safe, keep learning, keep building.